Watching the instruction video will give you a good idea on how the boat is to be built. But the most important thing is to follow the instructions. Always have your instructions with you when you're building. At this point, following the instructions on building the frame, you're all finished and the frame is done. Now all we're going to do is just add a few supports that will just give it a little more strength for the skin. On the bottom of the boat, this piece here is added to strengthen the bottom for the skin to fit. You'll do the same thing on the front. It's also a good idea to add pieces of wood where you're going to be putting your handles. If you're considering putting a transom on here for an electric trolling motor, now's the time you do it. It would be notched so that it would fit here, and then you would drill holes through here so that you'll be able to anchor it. In front of the boat, on the bottom, you do put another brace here, and on this piece here, before you put it on, you might want to add a few pieces of wood here so that when your skin is on, you'll be able to have something solid to hook your handle to. Here we have a 4x8 sheet of styrofoam insulation, 3/4 of an inch thick. And what we're going to do is peel the back part of this off. It's a real thin sheet of paper that will be peeled off, and put a layer of paint in there. Once you get the corners here started, it comes off pretty easy. So what you'll do is just work your way back a little bit at a time. Then you're ready to paint. If you're going to paint it, use a water-based paint and pick the color that you want the inside of the boat to be, because most of the inside of the boat will be this skin. Now that the paint is dry, what we're going to do is use the frame as a template and draw the inserts that will be fitting in each of the openings of the frame. To get all of the styrofoam inserts that you need, you will need 2 sheets of styrofoam. Using the frame as a template, you'll draw, and be sure to mark the left side 1L, the right side 1R, and the bottom would be 1B until you're through, which on each one there's about 5 or 6 inserts, and this will give you to put the inserts in the place where they belong. These will be cut out later on. This is the name of the PVC sheet that you'll be buying, and it's a 4x8 sheet, roughly a 1/16 of an inch thick. 3 sheets. What we're going to do now is we're going to take, and for the 1-person Canoe-Yak, we're going to take that sheets, and one by one we're going to draw the lines on each sheet so that we will know what piece will go where. So you draw with a pencil these lines on each of these sheets, and just the solid line on each of these sheets, not the dotted. And then that will give us the pieces we need to cover the whole boat. When it's time for you to mark your 4x8 sheets with the solid line that you're going to be cutting with a scissor, be sure to keep your instructions here so that you, on this one here, I'm going to be marking number 16 on that sheet, and it's a 14-inch mark. So you'll take and measure, put a mark on 14, then go up to the other end, put a mark on 14. Having a straight stick that you know is straight, take and put it on that line, and take a clamp, and you can clamp it to hold it on that spot, and then take your pencil, and take your tape measure, and check to make sure that it is 14, and it is. So this one here is done. This will be done on 2 sheets. When you're done with the 3 sheets, you should have 2 sheets with one line 14 inches all the way across, and the last sheet will have a number of lines on it, but all of them should be marked just as they are on the instruction sheet. Using a sharp pair of scissors, you'll be able to cut on those solid lines. Take the scissors and cut on that line all the way through. So our next step is to put the first piece of PVC on the boat. You see here we have number 4F. There's a line on 4F, and it's 8 feet from that line to the end of the bottom of the boat. This is going to be the first piece that we put on, and that will take one of the 2 sheets that will be on the bottom. This line here, we're going to make sure that it's flush on that line and make sure that it's covering the whole boat. At this point, you want to make sure you've got the straight edge up against the line so that it's exactly covering it. All of the frame is covered. Once you have your skin to where the roughest part is down, you've lined up here, you take a black felt pen, and with your hand on the frame, you're going to use this frame as a template and draw a line all the way around. Now that you've marked the PVC to the exact shape of the bottom of the frame, what you're going to do is cut on the outside of those lines about 1 inch and just go all the way around. Now that you've cut all the excess off of the skin, it's going to make it a lot easier to glue this to your frame. Okay, we're getting ready to glue this down now. And what we want to do is make sure that we have this skin exactly where we want it. We're going to take this up, and we know that it's going to fall right back in the same place. We'll take our caulking, once we've gone this far then, we're going to take this and bring it right back to where it was, pressing down and put this on your crimp so that the caulking that we just put on there is going to ooze. It's going to ooze out. This is the caulking that we use here. It's 100% waterproof, flexible, and it never really dries hard to where it would crack. Before you go to the next step, which is be putting on the front of this bottom piece, take a wet cloth and wipe all of the excess that you have just on that edge so that PVC that's going to fit here will butt right up against it. We're going to take the manufactured edge, we're going to bring it up against each other here, and then we're going to go and draw underneath. Now that your line is drawn, turn it over, lay it flat using the bottom of the boat for a table. Take your scissor and cut about 1 inch or so off of the line. Remember to put the rough side of the skin down. Draw your lines on the rough side, keeping the smooth side up. If for some reason you do find an edge that is up too high, a razor or something, and smooth it down so that you don't have that edge there. Now that we have that piece cut small enough so that we can work with it, what we're going to do is make sure that we put the lined edge on the bottom. Take your caulking gun, put a good bead to where the 2 pieces of PVC skin are going to meet. Take and put your clamps on the area that you've just put caulking. And now, like you did on the back side, you're going to press really hard. What I've done is I've taken this piece of scrap and took the manufactured edge, measured in 2 inches, and made it so I have a 2-inch strip that is long enough to go over top of this. You do want it longer than it actually fits. And then we'll glue that on now. Let's take this strip that we just made. We're going to take this off, and where the 2 pieces come together, we're going to put this strip so that it's 1 inch on either side. And we want to make sure that caulking oozes out. This is going to join these two together permanently, and it's also going to guarantee that we're not going to have any leaks. Take a board that will sit inside without touching and clamp it down. Once you've got this far, you actually have the whole bottom of the boat covered. Now it's just a matter of waiting for at least 12, if not 14 hours to come around and clean up so that they will fit exact to the frame. You do want it to dry. 24 hours is it will be completely set. But you could usually work on it about 12 or 14 hours if you're careful. This whole process, putting these three pieces on, cutting and everything, shouldn't take more than maybe an hour and a half. What we're going to do now is to start cutting the 1.5 inch strips, which will be folded into 90-degree corners. We'll probably need about maybe 4 strips. Oftentimes when you have a big sheet of the PVC, you might want to use the bottom of the boat for a table. Makes it a little easier. We're going to cut now this rectangle here. You want to cut these right on the line. And what we're going to do now is trim it to fit the frame exactly so we can put the skin on the sides of the boat. Removing this excess here is just the easiest thing. You just take just a straight screwdriver and put it up against the piece here and just run it down. What we're going to do now is we're going to trim this excess off all the way around so that it'll be flush with the frame. Start off with all you need is get yourself a box cutter with a good blade. And what we're going to do first, we're going to do is just get reasonably close and just take it down. And then once you get the big part out, then you could get close to the frame and just put it right up against there and just clean that right down to the frame. And we'll be doing that all around the whole boat. Now, as you can see, the whole bottom is on and it's taken the exact shape of the frame. We've taken and we have a nice edge right up to the end. And when we put these sides on, what you'll have is, it'll come right up to the edge here. And that's the way it'll look as it comes down. This is what the boat looks like on the inside. And this will be before you put in the styrofoam. Okay, at this point, we're going to start putting the skin on the sides of the boat. The first piece is going to be a 8-foot piece. And it's going to cover from the front of the boat 8 feet back. With it being on that line, we're going to clamp it, and then we're going to draw like we did on the other. Number one, be sure you have the roughest part of this inside. Check, make sure that every part of the frame is completely covered. And you'll extend out probably 1 inch or so on the very end. And then from there, we're going to cut off the excess, giving it about 1 inch or so. We'll start gluing it down. We'll use the same process as we did on the sides. We're going to clamp it exactly where we want it. And then what we're going to do is just fold it over, caulk the frame where it's going to touch, and then do the same on the other side. We'll start off by taking the clips off of one end and lifting it up. Then you'll take your caulk and you'll start caulking. You want to be sure you're going to put enough caulk on because it's going to have to just squeeze out a little bit on the bottom here especially. Once you've done that part, then you'll take this and press it down. Lift the other piece up then, and where you stopped caulking, you're going to start your next one. Once you've got that far, then you're going to take this and you're going to push it right back where it was. Be sure that you've pushed very hard on that frame to make sure that caulking does come out and ooze out a little bit. Once you've done that, now you're going to switch and do the smaller part. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. Make sure that this PVC skin that you're putting on is flush against the frame. The way to do that is to make sure that you've put it in and you're having a little bit of your caulking ooze out. You've noticed now, you could put clamps on this side, but there's no way to put any clamps on the other side. So if you want, you can take a stapling gun, making sure that you're where you want to be, and you could put in a staple every now and then. If there's any place that you feel might lift up, and you want to be sure that it stays down, and you could do this, and those staples will come out, and there'll just be a tiny pinhole there. Now I'm sure you remember on the bottom, where the two manufacturers' ends met, you wanted to take a piece of about 2 inches, and you want to go right in the middle and caulk that down so that it's marrying the two together. After you've put the skin on and you're letting it dry for 24 hours, then you're going to take your styrofoam that you had marked earlier and you're going to start cutting out your styrofoam. There's really nothing better for cutting styrofoam than using a hot knife. You'll take your gun and you'll just start cutting down on the line that you made earlier. One thing you want to be sure, don't just start cutting randomly. If you're going to cut for the bottom, cut all of the bottom pieces first. Make sure that you have them marked already, left, right, and bottom. And by doing that, you won't get them all mixed up. You know, take an hour or two and cut as many as you want. Maybe you cut the whole bottom off. What we're going to do now is the same thing we did with the edges on the bottom. We're going to take all this excess off. You can see how easy this works. Once you get this far, then you can clean it up by getting closer. And this back part we'll be using a 1/4 inch piece of AC plywood, because you do kneel on this sometimes, so you do want something stronger than your skin. Top part of the side is now clean. I've turned the boat over, and now we're going to do the bottom, which is basically pretty much the same, except now you're going to be running your box cutter on the skin that is on the bottom to make it flush. It's probably wise, instead of trying to get right down to it, get the heavy stuff off first. Then you're able to go back and then get it flush. And over top of that 90-degree corner, we're going to put a 90-degree cornice light that's going to fit over top of that. Now what we're going to do is, where we married the two sides, we're going to do just like we did on the bottom. You take a screwdriver and just lay it flat up against here with the sharp side down, and just run it right along, and then putting it flat, but without going in, just running it down that way without going underneath. Now we're going to cover the remaining side, and we'll be doing it in the same manner that we did the bottom and the one side. After you've cut all the pieces and where they fit, just put them in the general area that they go, and without doing any gluing or anything, check and fit them all in to make sure that they fit inside the slot that they belong. Now what you're going to do is one by one, you'll take it out and put contact glue on both sides, and then place it down after a few minutes and stick it to it. And this here's going to give that bottom and the sides not only a lot more strength, but it's also going to give the boat a lot of flotation. Take about 3 openings, and you're going to spray those 3 and the silver part of those 3, and you'll spray them with the contact glue and let it dry until when you touch it, it just barely sticks. These are the styrofoam pieces that we've put in, and we've made sure that they fit. So we have them, and we're going to glue them to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 L, which would be the left side of the boat. We're going to do that now. We're going to spray this area, and then we're going to spray this, and then we're going to wait about 3-4 minutes until it's just a little tacky, and then put them back in place. And this should be permanent. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to make your 90-degree corners that are going to fit all the way around the boat. You'll start off by squeezing these here so that you get 90 degree. And we're going to do that for those 8-foot strips. And then one thing nice about this PVC, it's not only, it's really easy to work with. It cuts easy, but more than that, you could bend this and it'll stay there within reason. Now we have 8 feet of 90 degree, which is going to connect the skin from both sides, and then this will be caulked to it. As you can see, what we're doing here is we're taking some caulking, and where these lines are like this, okay, we're going to just fill that in. Just as little insurance that we are not going to have any leakage on this boat. At this point, you can see we have the skin on both sides and on the bottom, and we also have all of the styrofoam panels are glued into place. At this point, we've cut the 2 pieces that we need, 13 inches, 4 feet long, 2 inches at the bottom, and we've cut a strip 2 inches by 4 feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this piece here, this piece here, and then what we'll do is we're going to glue this here. What that's going to do is that's going to give us the piece that we need for the front top skin, and that will fit over top where we'll make our lines and cut it and glue it down. At this point, you're going to let it just sit there and dry for at least 15-16 hours, 24 if you could, before you lift it off. So you'll want to be sure that you're going to tape this down to a floor, a table, or whatever you're going to tape it down to, someplace that you could leave it that long without touching it. So you wouldn't want to do it like in the middle of your garage. Anyway, at this point, when that's finished, you'll be able to take that off, and that will be part number 20, which is going to cover the front top of the boat. This will be laid on top, and you will mark the underneath side so that you could adhere your styrofoam to the inside. And then that will be applied just like you did the rest of the PVC on the boat. This is one where you will take the styrofoam, cut it, make sure it fits inside, and then you'll be able to apply it. When your PVC was laid out on top and you were drawing the outside lines, copying from the frame, also you will go inside and go in and reach as far as you can inside, and then draw lines inside also. These lines here were extended. This line here I haven't extended as yet. You've drawn your outside lines that you're going to be cutting, and you cut the excess off. And what we've done is drawn inside and mirrored it, and then took our styrofoam and fit it inside the lines so that when you turn this over and put it on the boat to where it's going to be glued to the frame, those pieces will fit right into that slot. Now on this, you notice that we did this a little bit different than the others. Because of the styrofoam the way it is, you can't pull the skin back. So what we've done, it's such a small piece, we've caulked all of the area that has to be adhered, that is going to be touching the PVC. We've caulked that whole area, and now what we're going to do is we're going to put the panel on. We're going to use clamps on the front, and we will staple the rest of it wherever we feel that it needs tack, being that you're not able to put clamps on this. On the back end of the boat and on the front end of the boat, you've got steel or aluminum here with wood frame that has to be covered. So what you do is take a factory edge, hold the factory edge so that it fits the frame, and just like the rest of them that you did, making sure that it's completely covered. So now you could cut this and glue it on. Use a good amount of caulk on this here, because this part here is underwater. Taking it the same way you drew your lines and you cut it, apply this, making sure that it's covered all the way around. With gentle pressure, push it flat. So you'll take a stapler and staple, and now that should hold it pretty good, and just until it dries. At that point then we'll trim it, and we'll actually have the 90-degree corners will actually come in out to here, and then we'll put another piece on top of that. This is a drawing of the 4-foot by 4-foot piece of 1/4-inch AC exterior plywood. That's half of one sheet. You cut it in half again, 2 feet and 2 feet. Now you have 2 by 4, and we're going to cut those into 2-inch wide strips. As you can see, the top of the back is a 1/4-inch piece that we're going to screw that down in. After it's screwed on, then we're going to trim the edge of that so that it is flush with the boat. On the inside, you cut those strips into 2-inch wide strips. When you lay them on the floor of the boat, which is where you'll be standing and stepping, if you start at the back end of the boat and brought your boards all the way up as far as they'll go, which is going to be right here where they join. So that's 4 feet, and it'll hit right on that beam. And you cut it a little bit longer, you cut it another 14 inches, and it fits right on the end, which will finish the whole bottom of the boat that you could walk on. As you remember, the trolling motor goes on the back here, where those 2 holes are. It would fit right on there. And that would be, if you decided to put a transom on, then it would fit there, and you could put your trolling motor, hook your trolling motor, and just run your wires up along the side here to the battery, which would be sitting up front. Each individual has an option on this back on what he wants to do with this 1/4-inch AC plywood. Firstly, I thought I would screw it in. It would be round, smooth here, and I'm thinking maybe of staining
or varnishing that, leaving it natural, and staining or varnishing the slats of wood that you walk on. You could do pretty much anything that your creative mind could think of.
What we're going to do now is cut the excess off of the front part here. And we'll do it just like we've been doing on all the rest of the boat. Those 1.5-inch strips that you took and you folded them, what you're going to do today, we're going to put them on here. So what you want to do is go back over them again and make sure that you've bent it in pretty good so that you can see it's in a 90-degree angle. And what we're going to do then is we'll take this strip and measure how much of it you need, and then cut it off. Once you've cut it to the size you're going to do, then what we're going to do is we're going to glue this piece right on here. I'm going to do it so that it extends out. This is one reason why you wanted to keep this at 90 degrees so that we could put this on here. And here's where your staple gun would come in handy, because you're going to have to staple the corner as you put your glue, and you just fill that in, having it ooze out. Another trick that works real well, these cups come off. Then cut a new one when you're going to put the trim on, and get a very small hole so you don't have too big of a hole. The smaller the hole, then you're going to be able to direct the caulking where you want. You won't get so much of it on. You'll work less, but it'll do just as good a job. Just start putting your caulk and put a bead big enough that it's going to ooze out of the sides of this trim. You want to do that on both sides. Once you've got the glue on, you're going to take your 90 degree and you're going to put it in its position. And what you'll want to do is staple the one part here. By doing that, then you're going to be able to push on this without it sliding. If there's any place that you see that it feels like it's going to be lifting, well then put a staple there. We're going to do this, the same thing on this side as we did on the other side. One thing nice about this glue is it gives you time to work with it. It's adhesive immediately. As soon as you touch it with your trim, it sticks. But it gives you time to play with it if you have to. Now tomorrow we'll be able to clean that off, cut off the excess, and then we will be putting another piece on the end here, and then the front will be done. Of course, we do have to do this on the bottom all the way around before we're finished. So just before you do it, it's a good idea to just run over it again. What you want to do here is a little bit hangover. So once you get to this point, then you're ready to start caulking. And you can start here and make sure that you've got a nice continuous bead. Start down at the bottom with just a little bit of an overhang, and just take and lay it on. Once this is stapled on this end, then you could apply pressure. Once you have that first 8-foot strip on, and
You've come as far as you could go with that 8. Now it's just a matter of cutting a piece that fits from that 8-foot piece to the end. And the overlapping is fine. This is what you want. You want to overlap on both ends, all 4 corners. By doing that, then you're able to cut it and trim it and put another piece on the top of that, and it makes it look more professional. There are a number of ways that the front and the rear can be sealed. This is the back of the boat, and it's done completely different than the front. This is one way that you can do it. Any way that you do it, as long as that you seal it so that it is waterproof. This is the back of the boat. This is where your 1/4-inch exterior plywood, which is hard, that you're able to kneel on. This is where your transom fits for your trolling motor. It's a good idea to put an eye on there so that you could tie your trolling motor to this eye, just in case it falls off. You'll have something to keep it from sinking. The portage trailer fits right underneath here for transporting, and comes out easy, and it fits right there. Well, we're almost done building the boat now, and when you're done with this boat, you'll have a under 40-pound, very strong, durable boat that you could depend on, and we'll go from there.